Hello, I'm Joe Connolly with Neil A. Caruso, brought to you by Dime Community Bank's Business Loan Bankers. We want to bring you Jessica Stockton Bagnulo, the owner of the very well known, very popular Green Light Bookstore in Brooklyn. We wanted to have Jessica on because she represents the way that business owners are staying optimistic and doing what they have to do with challenges not just from COVID, but in the book and publishing industry by technology changes as well. Jessica had to close one of Greenlight's two Brooklyn stores. The Fulton Avenue one is still open. But she says this was in no way a bad omen for bookstores in general. Explain, Jessica.
Thanks, Joe. I've been talking for my entire career in books, maybe 20 years plus, about how bookstores are a viable business model. The news of the death of the indie bookstore has been greatly exaggerated, and really in the past, around the time Greenlight opened in 2009, there was a resurgence of indie bookstores, and that's still continuing. There are more new stores opening every year, but every store has to figure out a really challenging business model. I mean, the margin on books is very slim. We're in a fixed price industry where we don't get to set the prices on the products we sell. You know how they're printed on the book there. We have to sort of stick with that. So there's a lot of ways it can work and a lot of ways it can't work. So closing the Flatbush Avenue store for us was just a way of focusing on what's really working for us and letting go of the things that aren't working. But I really wanted to make clear to our customers and to, all of the folks out there who love bookstores that it doesn't mean that bookstores aren't working. It just means they have to learn to focus on what's working for them.
What is working for you?
Um, our store in Fort Greene opened in 2009, and we have such a strong community support here. I mean, part of it is just like the retail realities of foot traffic. We're near the Atlantic Pacific subway station. We're near the Barclays Center. We're near the Brooklyn Academy of Music. There's restaurants and theaters all around us. So there's just people around on this neighborhood all the time. But we also host a lot of in-store events with amazing authors. We're really lucky that so many authors are local to Brooklyn that come by and do talks and readings with us. So we try and make it a place where something interesting is always happening. And our fans and our customers respond to that. And we have really wonderful support.
I was amazed at your calendar of events. 4, 5, 6 events in the bookstore, sometimes with a partner a week. Do you have a special staff? Probably not that handles. I'm probably looking at the staff who handles that, right?
We do. We actually have a 3-person events and marketing team. We're sort of
Wow.
in transition right now, partly because of the closure. So I am sort of working on some of the events again. But like many bookstores, this is a really big part of our business model. So we dedicate resources to it. We're working with publishers to do those bookings of authors. We're working with community organizations to partner with. So it's a lot of work, but it really is worthwhile in terms of book sales and in terms of building our relationships with our customers and our community.
Neil.
Yeah, those events really stood out to me too, Jessica. And I'm curious, when you look at that big calendar that you have, how many people attend those events each one? Is it more crowded during the week or the weekend? What's the flow like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and it certainly varies. Like we'll certainly have an event where there's like 10 people and it's very intimate. And then we'll have an event with 200 because it's an author whose book is getting a lot of buzz and everyone wants to be in the room with them. We host events usually in the evenings, Monday through Thursday night. Rarely we'll host an event on Friday. And then we do story times on the weekend. But Saturdays and Sundays are much busier in the store. That's when people are out and shopping. So we don't try and sort of clear everyone out and sit down chairs. But those weekday evenings are the nights that we do events in the stores. And yeah, there's a range, but there's also like a lot of different reasons we do events. Sometimes it's to sell a lot of books. Sometimes it's to highlight an author that we're excited about. Sometimes it's to support, a neighbor or a community organization. So yeah, there's lots of different reasons.
Is there a genre that performs very well in your bookstores? And do you know why that's so?
I mean, we do really well with literary fiction. We're lucky our customers have awesome tastes. And so that's a lot of the events that we host, but we do a lot also with sort of issues-based nonfiction around politics or cultural issues. We sell a lot of romance and mystery and genre fiction, but those aren't the books that we tend to have big events for. Yeah, so that's kind of our focus, but we do a little bit of everything.
How about business books? How do they sell? Do a couple good ones come to mind?
Um, I wish I had some good business book recommendations. We actually recently, one of the things that we do is we often will do conferences or offsite events, and we recently sold books at the Wall Street Journal Future of Everything Festival. So that was a big emphasis on like new business ideas. So there was a great memoir by the former president of United Airlines that did really well, and um, I'm trying to think. I could probably look a couple up for you and send them to you, but it's not a huge focus in our store. It's something that we provide access to, but it's not necessarily what people come to us looking for.
I'm glad you mentioned that partnership with the journal.
Hmm.
How did you pull that off? In a way, it's called I've heard this being described as a tag on. Where you tag on to somebody else's large customer base if there's
Hmm.
something in it for them. How did you pull that off with the journal?
They actually reached out to us because they've
Oh,
been doing this festival for a couple years, and we've actually worked with them for a couple of years because they have these amazing speakers, many of whom have books published, and they want to have an opportunity for people to purchase them and get them signed by the author on site. So we do that with. There's Writer's Digest has a conference that we do that with. We used to do one with the Yoga Journal, but we also do ongoing partnerships with the Brooklyn Academy of Music. We sell books on site at their theater locations. So yeah, those partnerships are key, as you said, because we're sort of tapping into their customer base as well as our own.
Neil?
Yeah, I was wondering about the Brooklyn Academy of Music that
Mhm.
you mentioned there. That partnership, I bet, does bring in a lot of new customers and obviously younger ones as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a fantastic partnership. We started working with them just after we opened the bookstore, so maybe 2010, and they had a couple different partners, like retail partners to run their shop, but it's a challenging business model because you have to be open around when there's a show. And you don't often sell a ton of books, but we also sell BAM merchandise and people really like to have the bookstore there. And then every once in a while there'll be something that sells really well. So the fact that we were right there in the neighborhood, we were hyper local to BAM, made it a really great partnership. And yeah, I feel like it's as much a marketing partnership as it is kind of we're providing the service of giving them a retail vendor. We're a New York Times reporting store, so that helps. A lot of other organizations appreciate that. And we get that cross marketing. And every once in a while, we'll be able to host a really big author event at BAM Spaces. We hosted Bernie Sanders last fall. We hosted events for the 1619 Project. So having access to their spaces is what we get out of it, as well as that marketing piece. And then they get a retail vendor who sort of like can handle all of that side of things so they don't have to worry about it.
You even had a party, a closing party for the store that you had to close. And I'm always curious about where people who lose their job due to economic reasons end up. Do you have any information on where some of the employees from that store, Jessica, have landed?
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple folks have gotten jobs in other bookstores. I think a
Mhm.
lot of folks like this, they really want to be in this industry, and like we've been able to make some connections for people. I don't know where everyone has ended up, but a lot of people do go on from the bookstore to work in publishing, or to work in other kind of media fields. And it really there's a whole range. I mean, we certainly have former employees who have written books, who've done all kinds of different amazing things.
That's great. So,
Mhm.
just to wrap up, to oversimplify what I hear you saying, and I feel your optimism despite challenges, you are doubling down on just about everything that Amazon cannot do if they tried.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, I was just at a conference with independent booksellers from all over the country, and there's such a huge range of challenges that everyone's facing, but there's also such a range of creative solutions. I mean, bookstores are working with nonprofit models, they're working with mobile models that don't even have a brick and mortar store. They have a van or something like that. They're doing partnerships and pop-ups, but there's a lot of different ways to make it work. Yeah, and they're all of those things that provide that sort of real world human connection, that curation that's just the opposite of like an online experience. So yep, that's what we can offer, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Jessica, for saving bookstores and for sharing your business insights with us. It's great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So nice to talk to you.